walk around, but I'm a whole lot better. I'm wearing regular shoes, which I have thanks for. I'm surprised how good you feel when both feet are on the same level. But here we are. We're in the third season of Lent already. And as I said, this is a covenant God has given us for this particular Lent season. When we hear the Ten Commandments, they were given to the Jews for a very good reason. There was a covenant to keep them close to God. They're 10 Commandments. Most of our laws in this land are made off of those 10 Commandments. I don't know if you realize that or not, but they are. And when we think about those particular 10 Commandments, we have to think about ourselves. Have we been able to follow all those commandments all our lives? Or have we fallen short? Do you remember as a child and somebody would get a new toy or new clothing that you really wanted? And how jealous you were about that? Knowing you couldn't get it for whatever reason? That's called coveting. Have any of us ever did that? How about when that neighbor buys that new car and we've never owned a new car? Do we ever envy that? Think about it. Think about losing our temper. And thinking about the words that come out of our mouths. Are any of them ever punctuated with God's name? Or Jesus' name? I used to have a friend that every time they got mad, they'd holler, Holy Christ. They didn't see that as using God's name in vain. But we are given those instructions for human beings to live together and live together well and to love their God. When we get to the covenant in Corinthians that Paul was talking about, that first covenant was between all the people and God. As long as we followed all those rules, we would stay in God's favor. The second covenant involved the way people think. Sometimes we don't realize that, but that's what Corinthians was about here. They're talking about the Greeks who had to have everything in logical order. Now, I understand that completely. Why? Because I work with computers, and when people do illogical things, or they come to me and say, it just blew up and I didn't do a thing, I always look at them kind of strange. One of the first things people do is if it's free, they're going to download it. If you want to download it and it's free, let me tell you what's going to happen to your computer. Somewhere along the line, it's going to get a virus. And when it gets that virus, eventually it's going to stop working. But they didn't do a thing. They give it 15,000 instructions at once because it doesn't work as fast as they want. What do you mean? Have any of you ever gone to that enter key 500 times? It records every keystroke you make. It's logical. So it's going to take it that long to get through and do it. And that's the way the Greeks thought. There had to be a reason for everything, a logical reason. A lot of us think that way. Is there a God? Well, why can't I see God? Is there love? Why can't I see love? Logically explain those things to me. What are those concepts that we have as humans? The Jews, they thought in the prospect of the Old Testament, laws. To be close to God, you had to do what? Follow those laws, those 10 Commandments. And now we have this upstart coming along whose name is Paul. And he's telling us that as Christian people, we have a new covenant. It's the covenant of the cross. We believe that Christ came for each and every one of us to redeem us from that reasoning, to redeem us from the laws, to save us simply because we're loved and we're worthy. That's what Christians believe. That's why Christ came, and that's why Christ was risen again. And now we get to the gospel. And this particular story of Jesus in the temple, we've all heard it. We've all heard it given to us as what? Righteous anger. He was mad because people were desecrating the house of God. I'm going to give it to you in a brand new way. As I studied and I read this week, one of the things I noticed that Jesus was very human as well as very much God while he was here on earth. And there's this human part of me that when I see people, and Jesus had that same part on him, that are being cheated, that are being held down, that are being beat up, that makes me mad. Well, guess what? Jesus was mad. Here he walks into the temple to worship, into the outer court, where all God's people were allowed. No rules on this one. You didn't have to be Jewish. You didn't have to be Greek. You didn't have to be anything but seeking a place to pray. That's what the outer court was for. All God's people would come in and pray. And Jesus was mad. Because here we've got a system set up that was for the church. It wasn't for God. Well, what do you mean, preacher? Well, you see, these money changers, you came into them and you had to have Roman coins in your pocket because that's the only legal tendency of that time, just like you'd have to have dollars today. And when you walked in, you had to go to the money changers. And guess what the money changers did? They charged you money for your Roman coins to give you Jewish coins. So you lost a little money there, right? Then you take those Jewish coins and you go over to the table and you choose out your sacrifice, because you see, you couldn't bring them in because they had to be perfect in every way. So how could I bring a calf from my farm, a sheep, a goat, and travel 100 miles or more? Guess what? By the time I got there, they're no longer perfect because they've lost a lot of weight from the walk, not having the food available. So I couldn't bring one from the outside in. So now we go over to the tables where I buy these things, and they charge me money. All those Jewish coins that I bought. Now I turn around, and I give them to the priest. And now the priest takes them to the inner circle, and he sacrifices them to God. But guess what happened to that meat? Why, the priest had to be paid some way, right? So all that meat became food for their households. So Jesus saw this system of oppression. This system that said, okay, Linda, I know you only got so much money, but I want a big share of it. And out of that big share of it, I'm going to get some to put in my pocket because I'm a money changer. When I take those coins over to buy my animal, he's going to get some because he's going to put a couple of those coins in his pocket. And now that sacrifice that's supposed to be for God, it's going to be slaughtered. And Lord, those priests are sure getting fat. starving. And Jesus was mad. Just like all human beings get mad. He was mad because these people were cheating people that had come to worship God. So he made a whip. And then he used it. He chased the people out. Turned over their tables. Set the animals free. In doing this, the people said, how come you did it? And this wasn't right before, by the way. He was crucified. This was the first year of his ministry. How do I know? It's in the book of John, and it's in the 2nd chapter. So he did it twice, by the way. And when he did it this time, he did it simply for being mad. And he said, my God's house is a house of prayer where all God's people are welcome. It's not going to cost you a dime to come and worship. If it does, and they're making a profit, there's something wrong. It makes me think sometimes for the churches we have today. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe we have to pay our bills. I really do. I mean, let's face it, the city's not going to keep our lights on or our gas on or anything else if we don't pay it. I can guarantee you the bank would be here for the foreclosure to sign if we didn't pay our mortgage. But it's a house of prayer. Think about some of the churches today. Think about the Roman Catholic Church. I love the Pope we have now. He's finally coming to a place where he's saying all God's children are God's children. And that God loves us all no matter what we are. But he also is sitting on the richest entity in the world, the Roman Catholic Church. And he's also saying, what's wrong with this picture? That people are starving. And we're sitting on all this money. Think about it. Think about what we as a church can do for the people who really need to be loved, to be prayed for, to be healed, to be fed, to see a doctor, a dentist. What could we do? Jesus was teaching the disciples a real lesson. And that lesson simply was, the church is not the building. The church are our temples, our bodies that God gave us, our ability to right wrongs when we see them, our ability to get angry when we see oppression, our abilities to stand and say this isn't right, our abilities to stick our neck out. Not easy things to do. But Jesus was human. And Jesus got mad. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I get mad, boy, I got all the courage in the world. I don't care how big they are, I'll stand there and fight them. If I'm mad enough. And Jesus was mad enough. And he told them what we all should remember. You can tear the temple down, but God will raise it again. Those are the promises that we have as Christians. You can tear the temple down, but God will raise it again. I love those facts about the Bible. I like the covenants that Jesus gave us. I like the covenants that God gave us. Follow my 10 Commandments. I'm so sorry I haven't been able to all my life. I'm so happy that I can accept the fact that Jesus came, loved me, died for me, was risen again. So I know I'm worthy. And I'm so happy that Jesus had a temper to say, you're not going to oppress my people. You're not going to rip them out. I invite you all to think about it on our Lenten journey. Are we willing to stand up? Stand up for the oppressed? Are we willing to say, hey, we're so happy we have a building, but if we didn't have it, we'd still have a church because our temples are here within each and every one of us. We are God's church.